I'd like to address the notion of the singularity, and it's perhaps, in some important sense, the most important concept in the history of human thought, in that it encapsulates um, many of the passions and hopes and worries of humankind into a single modality, stretching from, revelations in some sense in biblical terms to Terence McKenna's notions of the singularity. It's it's a vast concept, and it's still not overly thought about, but it I think will become more prescient on people's minds as computing technology increases in its capacity. Now, I do think in some not very strong sense of the word that there was a singularity recently, but it's not a strong singularity. It's sort of a weak singularity. And but what I mean by that is that there was a threshold passed that is quite different from the previous modality. So it was a tier change, in my opinion, that is just happened or is very soon to happen. And perhaps, December 21st, 2012 was the marker or, you know, or threshold line crossed in which we see a new tier develop from the green stage to the yellow stage, from spiral dynamics first tier to spiral dynamics second tier, or what I call the fifth tier to the sixth tier. And there was some personal experiences that suggest to me that there was some sort of massive shift that did take place at that point in time. Um, and what we're looking at here as we move forward now is an increasing brain-mind interfacing of technology and a synchronization between what's happening in the outside world and what's happening in the inner world, with increasing virtual realities. And I think just um, the capacities for technologies to become more oriented and person focused as AI becomes more commonplace in the world. For example, we have technologies now that can beat people in answering questions, such as Watson with Jeopardy, who, you know, beat the two smartest people at Jeopardy and doubled their score. So we have this ramping up of very advanced technologies hitting the scene as humans are struggling to sort of come to terms with where this technology is going. And there is indeed very many promises and perils. It's a bipolar environment, because we could have, and it's I think very viable for elites to somehow take control of this technology and hoard it over the average populace, such as Elysium, we see. And I think it's even more extreme than Elysium, the movie that's coming out in August, where they live on a separate world and control the planets through the technologies that they have. But what Raymond Kurzweil suggests is that by 2045 we'll reach a point where humans cannot even follow the train, if biological humans that are not augmented could not even follow the train of development in the AI that's becoming created. So it would become so fast that it's impossible for the human mind to even comprehend. Um, and that's the Moore's law, doubling every now 9 months, where it was doubling every 2 years and 1 year. Now it's down to about 9 months. But we have this convergence too of nanotechnology, of computing and of robotics, where if Raymond Kurzweil is right again, and he has been fairly right up to this point, about 78% right, in predicting from 1999 to 2010. But if like our smartphones are a billion times more powerful than computing technologies 30 years ago. In about 30 years, we will have computing technology a billion times stronger than the smartphones that we have in our hand today, and thousands of times smaller. So you have a nanobot or a blood cell level computer, blood cell size computer that's a billion times more powerful than your smartphone integrated into your brain. So then you have brain-mind interfaces with these technologies that are super powerful and super tiny, and you can create a new neocortex that allows individuals to do super thinking in some sense, because these technologies will be directly interfacing with your brain, which they're already doing and have been doing to some extent for some years. So it's not unreasonable at all to think that these computers can be interfacing with your brain. But humans will still start at square one. There's still going to be an amber, there's still going to be an orange, there's still going to be a green level of development, or blue, orange, green. People still move through these developmental stages of consciousness. It's just going to be able to happen more quickly and more smoothly if we don't have bottom down or top down control. Now, what I do see is happening potentially with this tier change is that there will be more bottom up. If my theory in spiral dynamics, not so much Ken Wilber's theory, is right in that there's a new reinvigoration of the ground of being elements, or the more primordial elements of evolution. That the yellow and turquoise, which reinvigorate sort of the more primitive elements of evolution, and reintegrate that into the humans. And I see the potential for a lot more bottom-up reestablishment instead of this top-down control, which we see in almost every avenue of life at this time. There's so much top-down control, but it's losing its ability to maintain itself. Just one thing I read today, just as an example, is that Hollywood is seeing it impossible to keep producing these massive budget films. It's going to flop very soon, and then there'll have to be a new model as to how to recreate movies. And I think that can create new edginess in what it means to make a good film. And so you'll see a lot more bottom-up creations. And I think that this could correspond with new virtual technologies where, maybe we can create virtual movies in much more quicker ways, which, by 2017 we could be interacting in a fairly virtual world. This stuff can come online pretty quickly and become pretty widespread pretty darn quickly too. So, and the 3D printing, we could perhaps print out these technologies by that point too. So you're not paying huge overheads to have them produced for you. So we're seeing this convalescence of different technologies moving into creating a more bottom-up space that could end poverty and end war if the elite don't dominate over us on it. So there's this dramatic promise and peril with these notions of singularity, as there is in many big ideas. They could be manipulated, but if we stay on top of them, if we hold a high moral standard to them, and we educate ourselves and help educate others, then there's a good chance that these won't be imposed on us in a negative fashion. So that's a rough overview, I'd say, of the notions of singularity and what we're looking at. But so 2045 is a date to look at. If you look at Kurzweil's thinking, that's when Moore's law, reaches this crescendo, and it's just impossible for humans to keep up with it. So and there's this even notion of immortality within the next 20 years, where we'll be adding 1 year of life potentially to every year we lose through medical advances, and with these nanobots potentially integrating with us. And questions the nature of what it means to be human and what technology's relationship to humanity actually is. Um, what does the neocortex mean, and what does that meaning relate to our technology capacities? It seems just as humans developed a neocortex is when we really became, technology beings, and now we're developing a higher level brain-mind interface with AI technology. So we're building a new neocortex that will interface with our brain, and so then we have a new synchronization between technology and humanity, not just an outer external body part. It's now becoming an integrated body part. So then integration as itself, a concept, becomes it spirals out into vast arrays of new capacities. So anyway, you want.